An update on the status of CM Punk in All Elite Wrestling, reportedly on ice as he recovers from his injury. However, talk of a contract buyout has stopped in recent weeks, leading to some to speculate he could indeed return to an All Elite Wrestling ring in 2023. Also an update on the daughters of Jay Briscoe after his tragic passing in an automobile accident this week, coming from the family of Jammin' Pugh. Colt Cabana is back in AEW, now working as a producer, and Tony Khan confirms that Sting is considering retirement. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. Let's start off talking about CM Punk, and it's quite interesting actually when it comes to Punk, because talks of his departure, talks of Punk's exit from All Elite Wrestling have kind of stopped in recent weeks, with Punk himself sending mixed signals about a possible return to the company, poking fun at the ratings, poking fun at MJF, also suggesting he would be open, or it would be best for business if he, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks put their issues aside, worked together, and made money for the company in recent Instagram stories that he has posted. Now, Punk himself hasn't been seen on AEW television since the incident at the post All Out media scrum back in September 2022. The press conference saw Punk verbally attack the executive vice presidents of All Elite Wrestling, among others, leading to a backstage brawl that saw tempers flare and various individuals involved be suspended from the company. Since these events, suspensions have been served, but CM Punk has been absent without explanation from AEW management. Dave Meltzer has now provided an update on CM Punk's status in AEW. In the new Wrestling Observer newsletter, Meltzer states, quote, "We're still months away from when Tony Khan will have to make a call regarding Punk. It's not the easiest call because of all that happened, but Punk was a ratings draw and ratings are weaker than before, generally, even if there's positive house show movement. Right now, from the Punk side, the belief is that Tony Khan has put Punk on ice for now, and there are no ideas to use him that have been presented, but no talk at all of late to release him either." Dave Meltzer had previously stated that he believes that Punk is in a strong position due to the dropping ratings in his absence. Punk himself had even taken to social media to fire a shot at AEW's ratings when MJF taped over his opponent's name, Punk, on the Pro Wrestling Illustrated Rivalry of the Year award. Dax Howard, of course, recently courted some controversy on his podcast, sharing his feelings about Punk and suggesting he should return to AEW. Now, this is really an interesting story, isn't it? Because it just won't go away, and it's not going to go away until we get an answer regarding Punk and his return or departure from AEW. And I did mention this at the time, and my feeling, and it's kind of getting solidified over time here, is that time really does heal all wounds, and sometimes having time away, having distance from an issue or a problem can mend fences. And obviously, look, it's still going to have to come down to CM Punk and the Elite putting their issues to one side, or just being willing to work in the same company, not necessarily as opponents, but be willing to work in the same company, put their egos to one side. And look, that would be best for AEW business. Whether you can have these stories of Chris Jericho, the locker room leader, saying that Punk is a cancer to AEW and a detriment to the locker room, and saying, I would never work with Punk if he indeed returned. Punk doesn't have to. Punk doesn't have to work with Chris Jericho. And ultimately, if I'm Tony Khan, I would say to Chris Jericho, well, that's great, but you're not in charge of this company. I respect you, and yeah, you absolutely helped put AEW on the map. Your signing back in 2019 was ginormous, and it was invaluable to the company, and you've signed this new long-term contract for more money than you've ever made, and yes, you've been elevated into a senior position in the company, but as a senior person in AEW, you would know that ultimately what is best for business is making money. What is best for business is drawing eyeballs on the product, and given the real-life scandal that's been involved with CM Punk and Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, Punk returning and then putting their egos to one side and working together, that would be best for business, because it would be the hottest storyline that AEW has ever done. When you had the fallout of Brawl Out last year, it was one of the biggest pro wrestling stories of the year. Bear in mind, there was a lot of pro wrestling stories last year. I would know. I covered all of them. And CM Punk and that situation at All Out was one of the biggest ones. If AEW can turn that into a storyline, can blur the lines between fiction and reality, they could be in a really promising situation to get the product back hot again. It's not to say that the product's ice cold, because I do think it's been better since the fallout of All Out, and they had a bit of a shaky run up, to be fair, to Full Gear, and after Full Gear they did feel like they were gaining some momentum again, but at the same time the ratings aren't really reflecting how hot the product was about a year, 18 months ago. That's just, that it is what it is. And maybe Punk coming back and getting involved with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, that would be a promising thing. I mean, the storyline feels like it's there to be done, doesn't it? You know, the Elite are the AEW World Trios champions once again. Most likely, one would think they're going to be feuding with the House of Black or possibly Top Flight and AR Fox. Of course, Top Flight did defeat the Young Bucks on Dynamite on Wednesday. Nevertheless, there's going to be a feud for the Trios championships until Revolution, and then after that, hey, there's a real possibility we could see the Elite versus CM Punk and FTR. Of course, FTR, their status is in question at the moment. Of course, strong allies of CM Punk, but their contracts come up, I believe, in April. They're still trying to determine what their future could be. There were plans for CM Punk and FTR to team up heavily throughout the summer. That didn't happen last year because of Punk's foot injury, so anything's possible. And if they did a storyline of CM Punk and FTR versus the Elite, it would do really, really, really good business for AEW. Again, whether or not that happens remains to be seen. I'm more confident of Punk coming back now than I was, let's say, in the days and weeks and even first few months after the All Out situation, because time has gone by. Again, Punk's sending signals. He's clearly training and rehabbing for something, whether that's just, again, to be doing acting or getting back in the ring with WWE, I don't know. But I think Tony Khan's more than aware that he put a lot of money down on the table to sign CM Punk to a multi-year contract. He doesn't want to buy him out his contract, but at the same time, he doesn't want to upset his locker room. This is what happens when you're an owner or a president of a pro wrestling company. You have to make big calls, and the buck, pun intended, does stop with Tony Khan. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. As of right now, I'm still 50-50, but I'd probably lean more to Punk returning to AEW than going to WWE, I must be said. Now, obviously, this week was when I see the details of this, I still find it unbelievable and incredibly tragic. Obviously, an update, though, has been provided on the daughters of Jay Briscoe following the car accident earlier this week that took his life. As I mentioned, the professional wrestling world is still reeling after the tragic loss of Jamin Pugh, also known as Jay Briscoe, following a car accident on Tuesday night, January 17th, at the age of just 38. On Wednesday, Jay's wife Ashley Pugh provided an update on their daughters who were also in the car during the accident. Gracie Pugh was undergoing back surgery, while Jaylee had serious injuries but is stable. On Thursday evening, friends of the Pugh family took to Facebook Live to pass along the following updates from Ashley on Jaylee and Gracie, saying, quote, "Currently the girls are stable, but they both have a very long road of recovery ahead of them. Gracie, 12, when she originally got to Nanticoke, which is a hospital, she couldn't feel anything from the waist down. She was diagnosed with an L2 dislocation and an L3 and L4 fracture in her back, which compressioned on her spinal cord. After the hospital got her stabilized, they transferred her to another hospital, and she got the feeling back in her thighs, but nothing lower than her knee. She was taken straight for an MRI and surgery on Wednesday morning around 3 a.m. The doctor was able to relieve the compression on the spinal cord, and surgery went as well as expected. When you have trauma to your spinal cord, it's a waiting game. With the swelling and trauma, you have to wait. She still has feeling in her thighs, but no movements as of yet. Gracie had tingling in her feet on and off today. Her progress will be a day-to-day basis for months to come. She is bruised up pretty badly, but at this time, no other injuries have been diagnosed. In regards to Jaylee's condition, they said, quote, Jaylee was diagnosed with an open tibia and fibula fracture at the hospital where she underwent surgery. They placed an external fixator on her and sent her back to the hospital. She's been diagnosed with a C7 fracture in her neck and has been placed in a neck brace, which she will be in for 6 weeks. She also has an L3 and L4 fracture in her back, which can be managed but with a back brace for about 12 weeks. She has a right clavicle fracture from the seatbelt as well as a broken rib on the right side. She has a small left pneumothorax, which is the air between the lung and chest wall, not inside the lung. They are just monitoring, and it's not large enough for intervention at this point, which is a blessing. Today, she was diagnosed with a perforated bowel with free fluid in her abdomen. She had some internal bleeding in her stomach area. They knew about it and they were watching it, and today they were able to pinpoint it and find out where it was. The surgery went awesome. They got in there, they got the bleeding under control and got her on the mend. She went to the OR for that today. They did a bowel resection, which means they took a little bit of it out, nothing that is long-term effects. While she was down there, the orthopedics decided to do another washout of her leg and some manipulation to the bones for better alignment. She still has the external fixator in place, and they placed an NG tube down her nose to decompress her stomach. They will take that out tomorrow. This will allow her to eat. Again, I'm sorry if some of those details are quite graphic there. It's horrible, and the more details that come out about the accident in question, it's just horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. And as mentioned, Jamin Pugh being 38 is no age, and just, I mean, I thank everything that his two daughters are still with us. Clearly, they have a really, really, really long road to recovery ahead, and my thoughts and prayers and condolences just continue to go out to the family. I mean, just what a traumatic time, traumatic incident, and it's horrible. It really is horrible. I mean, the police report states that Jamin Pugh was taking his daughters to cheerleading practice. That's it, taking them to cheerleading practice, and it led to that. And it's just, as I mentioned, absolutely heartbreaking isn't even the word. I cannot even imagine the feelings that they're going through right now. So there'll be a link in the description box below. There's a Just Giving page or a donation page. Obviously, there's lots of expenses to pay at the moment. Obviously, with the healthcare system being what it is in the United States, being incredibly expensive. Of course, I'm sure there are funeral expenses, etc. And just to take care of the family, all of that information is going to be in the description box below. So if you wish to contribute, donate, share it, do whatever you want with it, all of that information is in the description box below. Now, we did talk about CM Punk earlier on today, and it's interesting because, of course, we know his relationship or lack thereof nowadays with Colt Cabana. And what was quite interesting is when Punk was in AEW, you could argue all of this situation that Punk finds himself in right now kind of stems from his lack of relationship with Cabana, because that's what really was the spark in all of this of CM Punk's issues with Cabana, the lawsuit, Hangman Page's line in the promo, and then it escalated to the situation at Brawl Out. Well, an update has emerged on Colt Cabana's AEW return following his recent absence from AEW and Ring of Honor TV. Cabana notably returned to AEW TV on the November 2nd, 2022 edition of AEW Dynamite, unsuccessfully challenging for Chris Jericho's Ring of Honor World Championship. Cabana hasn't wrestled for AEW since, and notably missed the December 10 Ring of Honor Final Battle pay-per-view due to injury. Per Dave Meltzer in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Cabana has recently been working as a backstage producer. Also discussing Cabana's recent Being the Elite appearance, Meltzer writes, quote, Colt Cabana has been back working as a producer backstage and was also on BTE this week. He was in a skit where he was in the background as Alex Reynolds and John Silver and Evil Uno were working on recruiting somebody into the Dark Order. They talked about wanting someone 6'6", or 6'6", or 6 foot rather, or 6'6'1", dark hair, good wrestler, college educated, and have a history while Cabana was in the background thinking he was getting back into the group. They then walked towards him, and right past him and around the corner was John Hennigan, who they recruited with the idea his name would be Johnny Dark Order, obviously that being the former John Morrison. Again, it's interesting. People would look at this and say, well, that means Colt Cabana, if he's being a producer in AEW, then CM Punk's not coming back. Not necessarily. I mean, they were in AEW together for Punk's run. Cabana wasn't there that often, and again, that was a part of the spark of the issues. With CM Punk and the Elite, and CM Punk and Hangman Page, there was a rumor that was going around essentially that CM Punk had told Tony Khan to not renew Colt Cabana's contract, which is something that Tony Khan has denied, CM Punk has denied, although still some believe it. I don't know, but you try and figure it out. You try and figure out all of that situation when it comes to Colt Cabana and CM Punk, because I'm kind of tired of it at this point. Finally, Sting recently spoke about his retirement. Of course, he's competing in a final match, the Great Muta's final match in Pro Wrestling Noah, and it's led to some discussing when is Sting going to hang it up. Well, Sting has revealed that his contract with AEW expires this year, and come the end of it, he'll retire at the end of it. Of course, he's in his 60s. It's surprising he's even wrestling at this point. Well, AEW President Tony Khan has addressed Sting's wrestling future following the Icon teasing his retirement. In a previous article by D Magazine, it was indicated that Sting will hang up his boots when his current AEW deal expires. Sting's AEW contract is expected to be up sometime this year. Speaking on the Click podcast, Tony Khan noted that he is of the belief that Sting is starting to think about retirement. Praising the wrestling veteran, Khan said, quote, "I talked to Sting a lot. He is somebody who has been such a boost to AEW since he arrived. Sting debuted a little over 2 years ago at the first Winter is Coming event in AEW. I catch up with him pretty frequently on a regular basis. I have to say, Sting's motivation for pro wrestling is as high as it's ever been. He loves what he's doing. I do think he's starting to think about what retirement will look like, but he's also not slowing down at all in the present. So I'm not ready to say exactly when Sting is going to hang it up, but I do know every time we get to see Sting go out there in AEW, it's very special." Now, Sting, of course, last wrestled at the November 19 AEW Full Gear pay-per-view, teaming with Darby Allin to defeat Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Sting and Allin will team with the Great Muta on Sunday, January 22nd, in the character's final match ahead of Keiji Muto's retirement. As I mentioned, that's going to be at the Great Muta's final bye-bye event for Pro Wrestling Noah. But there you go, guys. That's the latest AEW news for you today. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's AEW news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.